Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. And today we're going to talk about physical media, the old physical and the new physical stuff. Now, before I get into that, I did recently take a trip to GameStop, one of my local GameStops, and the selection there was looking pretty minimal. But, it was nice to see a couple games there. I didn't really grab anything, but, looking at the store and looking at its, thinking about its former glory, I would say, it's kind of sad. Like, I felt like there was really no reason to come to the store. But anyways, guys, when it comes to physical media, I had a talk with my buddy Gerald about a year ago. And when it comes to like how a lot of companies are trying to phase out physical media, where it comes to video games, movies, things like that, because, a lot of these companies just want full control. Streaming services are taking off, subscription services, all that good stuff. There's people just are on it, and these companies are making a lot of money on it. So having physical media, I guess, feels a bit niche. But not for this consumer. I want physical media until it no longer exists. And then when it's not getting put out anymore, I'm going to go back and look at the older stuff. Now, I've talked about this before, but I want to bring it up again. Physical media is being phased out. It's an unfortunate thing. Nobody wants that to happen, but it's happening. And stores like GameStop are trying to adapt ways of surviving when it comes to that. They got to kind of sell different merchandise from games, which is insane to say. Looking at this GameStop here, you can see they had a pretty decent PS4 selection. But more of the stuff I see them trying to push out or make stand out is stuff like this. Like plushies, clothing, little memorabilia for certain games or whatever like that. And I guess that stuff is cool, but it's not necessarily what I'm looking for. To be honest, though, it's kind of pitiful to see the state of some of the local GameStops in my area. I know they're trying to bring retro back, and the footage you're seeing here, this is not a retro GameStop. At least it wasn't listed as one, but it did have some stuff you can consider that is retro. Now, what you're seeing here, 3DS, don't think that's considered retro, but PS1, PS2, that probably fits the more retro style. But it's going to be random what you find at a lot of these GameStops. Here's another cabinet here, PS1 with a PlayStation Portal. PS1, $70. I don't know if that's a good deal for one, but I love how those things are just small and just really like cool looking. The PS1 is probably my favorite design out of all the PlayStation systems. Then we got a Switch, Atari classic system, I think here, 200 games by My Arcade, and now going to some of the pre-orders they have here too. I hate how none of these games are like ever in stock when the game comes out. You have to make sure you pre-order if GameStop's going to get any of this stuff. And the thing I hate about that is that you might forget, or just they might not advertise it properly. You never know the game's coming out. So by the time you go to the store, see if the game's out, they say, "Hey, did you pre-order?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know it was out." Well, you should have pre-ordered. Annoying. But anyways, getting back to a certain physical media versus the old school stuff. With the old school physical media, you had more of a complete product. And nowadays, you have like games that are like unfinished, need day one patches to fix a lot of crazy issues, which is annoying. An example for me was I got this game called Daymare 1994. Now the game needed to do a day one patch, of course, right? But I just wanted to play the game, get into it real fast. The patches, I forgot how long it was going to take the load, but just long enough to where I didn't want to wait. So played the game, seemed fine at first. There was a weird intro where you walk down this corridor, and then all of a sudden you get to an area in the game and the characters are glowing. I'm like, what the heck? And I played a bit further, thought I was going to, be okay. I thought it was some kind of glitch, but no, it stayed that way. So I'm like, holy crap. And then when the patch finally finished updating, the game was almost like a different game, especially the intro was like totally different. It was insane. And I was like, wow, like this game is not really even finished on the disc. A lot of these companies are pushing these games out the door to meet deadlines, even though these games aren't properly like done. And it's insane to see that, and that's why for me, always the old school physical media, I feel like up at least until you could say probably the 8th generation too, or even up just to the 7th generation, you felt like you had a more complete product on the disc. Now people are starting to notice this type of stuff, and they're like, wow, dude, like I'm not even getting a complete product. So no, I'm spending my hard-earned money on this game that's not even done. And they're thinking like, man, like back in the day, like we used to get games complete, finished games, that's what it was about. Now it's like we're the beta testers, and I feel like that's why a lot of physical media is easily dropping off, because they're barely putting any content on the physical media we get. Now there are like things like indie type games that usually are complete on disc, like companies like Limited Run, Strictly Limited. They make sure by the time they push games out, they have everything on the disc that's possible, of course, unless the company wants to do like some kind of DLC down the line. I get that, but for the most part, they want us to have a complete product. But when it comes down to it, though, guys, these companies really want to make as much money as possible, which, we can understand, obviously. But the single player experience, for me, is where it's at. Multiplayer comes second. I think a lot of these online games could be saved somewhat, if they have some kind of single player experience. Like, for example, Concord. I don't know how rough it was when it came out. Some people got to play it a little bit when it first came out. But that game possibly would have been saved somehow if it had some kind of single player content on it. Then they could have worked on the online and fixed that. And that's how it usually works. But now it's all about online co-op multiplayer before the single player experience. And I think that's one of the reasons why that game didn't last. There's probably a lot of other reasons why, they had to pull it back. But I think if it had some kind of single player on the disc, it would have still been here right now. I think all these bad experience with like the new releases of certain games and the broken state that a lot of games come in are pushing people back to retro, and that's why retro is so popular. Like, you guys know, I went to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo recently, which that video is coming out soon. I got a lot of games and footage from that, so I want to put it all together for you guys properly before I bring that video out. But it was insane how many people were there were like looking for retro games, and a lot of like the newer stuff like PS4, PS5. If it was on the cheap, it would sell, but for the most part, people were looking for the old school retro like experience. And I know what people are gonna say. Retro is so expensive, but I gotta put it out there. Not all of it is expensive, to collect for. I don't want to go too much into it because I've talked about it in previous videos. But there's a reason why these retro conventions are so popular. I also want to bring this up. With all the popularity of the streaming services for movies, I recently found that some of these streaming services have been taking out episodes of shows that offend people, editing scenes that people get offended by. And this is a small margin of people that get offended by certain stuff. So I feel like there's certain movies I wanted to pick up on 4K Blu-ray, so they don't have the option of like editing the scenes. I wanted how it was meant to be put out. A lot of those folks will complain about a movie or certain scenes, and they never had any intention on watching it. They just want to complain about it. So I figured I would go out and kind of like pick up a lot of the physical media for movies, things like that, because we all know the 4K Blu-ray is probably the last physical media we'll get for movies. When it comes to like 8K and all that stuff, that'll strictly be streaming. And that's one of the reasons why last year me and my buddy Gerald were like shopping at Best Buy, trying to pick up some movies on the cheap before, they kind of like stopped putting out the physical media at their stores. Anyways, guys, physical media, I love the retro physical media the most. It's just a fact because just how it is. But just want to kind of compare the difference between them and why people are probably mostly going back to retro style physical media for their collections. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you in this video. Hope you enjoyed. Tomorrow, I will have a small pickups video coming out. I did want to work on the Portland video, but that video is going to take a bit longer to edit. So I'll just bring out this other pickups video I have brewing for you guys. But that's all I got for you, the Radical One, and I will see you all later.